Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Well, the Snowden revelations have confirmed the existence of the Echelon surveillance system. For the last 30 years or so, this has just been a big conspiracy theory. The government has lied about this indiscriminate surveillance program for years. Echelon is a global system for the interception of private and commercial communications, and it reportedly was first planned with the establishment of the national security state in 1947. In 1988, the British investigative journalist Duncan Campbell wrote an article titled "Somebody's Listening," and he wrote that for The Statesman, and it revealed the existence of Echelon. 27 years later now, he is vindicated. Campbell says, in December 2014, I asked fellow Scottish journalist and Intercept reporter Ryan Gallagher to check Snowden's documents. Was there evidence of Echelon? And after they checked those documents, they discovered a number of NSA and GCHQ documents confirming what a whistleblower had discovered 27 years previously. And you can read that article in full at Infowars.com. It will tell you all about it. But once again, another conspiracy theory becoming conspiracy fact. But even with all this exposure of all the mass surveillance going on, our privacy is still being threatened. Corporations and data brokers are really pushing for CISA to be passed. But surprisingly, Homeland Security is warning that it could sweep away internet users' privacy. So CISA grants broad latitude to tech companies and data brokers and anyone with a web-based data collection. They can mine user information and then share it with appropriate federal entities, which then those federal entities have permission to share it throughout the government. So frankly, why is Homeland Security against this? First of all, doesn't really explain that in that article at all, why Homeland Security would be putting out the warning to Americans that their privacy is being threatened. But we know why data brokers are, of course, anxious to get CISA passed, because they don't want to lose the ability to sell all of our user information and to license that data. It is a very lucrative practice. But the language that's in this info sharing bill carves a giant hole in privacy laws. It's going to allow tech companies like Google and Facebook to hand over massive amounts of user data to the government, and there's no legal process for that whatsoever. Now, the amount of information that's floating free within the federal government, that could include credit card histories, lists of goods purchased, and your healthcare records. And we've already seen, how good the government is at maintaining private information, keeping it from being vulnerable to hackers. But now the NSA and the FBI, they're already tapped into the internet's back door. So we don't need any sweeping cybersecurity legislation that almost, encourages companies to hand over Americans' data to these government agencies, because they can hand it over without any legal repercussions from people who might feel that their private data has been threatened. And of course, they are voting on all of this while everyone is worried about a lion, okay? You always, when you see the mainstream media just really pushing these insane stories that have nothing really to even do with America, everyone's like worried about this lion. They're definitely doing something in Congress, so you should always pay attention. But that's not all. The Obama White House has also just declared war on Syria, and nobody has even paid any attention.
Remember the massive freakout back in 2013 over what seemed like an imminent announcement of US military action in Syria? It seemed as though Obama was hours, even minutes away from committing US forces to a conflict that many feared could start World War III.
Good afternoon, everybody. 10 days ago, the world watched in horror as men, women, and children were massacred in Syria in the worst chemical weapons attack of the 21st century. And now's the time to show the world that America keeps our commitments.
Only a last-minute about turn saved the day, and everyone breathed a huge sigh of relief. Well, Obama has just basically declared war on Syria, and hardly anyone even noticed.
Well,
President Obama giving the Pentagon the green light to defend U.S.-backed rebels in Syria. Now, under the new rules of engagement, the fighters trained and armed by the U.S. would have the support of airstrikes if they're attacked by Islamic extremists or Syrian government forces.
So if the rebels make it to Damascus and are about to attack the presidential palace, the White House just authorized US fighter jets to bomb the presidential palace. How is that not a declaration of war? ISIS is wreaking havoc all over the region, killing Christians and Muslims en masse, but the Obama White House is still preoccupied with targeting the Syrian military, which is the major force in the region fighting ISIS. Meanwhile, our so-called ally, Turkey, is buying huge quantities of oil from ISIS and bombing Kurdish soldiers who are fighting ISIS in northern Iraq. The Israeli military is also providing aid to Syrian rebels, many of whom have gone on to join Al-Qaeda-affiliated groups and ISIS itself. What the hell is going on? Why is the United States and its allies targeting people who are killing ISIS? Why are we following the same disastrous policy that we saw in Libya, where rebel groups supported by NATO in the overthrow of Gaddafi went on to form the leadership of ISIS? Why are we doubling down on a failed foreign policy, supporting terrorists in a bid to topple sovereign governments that has spawned a humanitarian catastrophe and a jihadist ideology that has led to the massacre of tens of thousands? Is this really about fighting ISIS? Or is it about exploiting the threat posed by ISIS to achieve the long-term geopolitical goal of toppling the governments of Syria and Iran? And how many more thousands of innocent lives will be lost in the pursuit of that goal? How many more Christians and Muslims will be slaughtered for refusing to submit to ISIS's draconian reign of terror? How many more gay people will be thrown off buildings? How many more women stoned to death? How long before Democrats and Republicans, liberals and conservatives unite to demand an end to this insanity, to stand in unison against the military-industrial complex and say this stops right now? Enough is enough.
Brain Force is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it's because of Brain Force.
We kept changing this formula over and over and over again until it became sort of a grand puzzle. For example, the L-theanine inside of it, that is activated by the different compounds in the yerba mate that we put inside of it as well. This just increases the compounds you already have.
This is what you're actually designed to run on.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a car will run on one form of junkie gas, but it runs really good on what it's designed for.
And that's the principle of Infowars Life, as far as I understand, that you've always had, is that it's not about synthetic chemicals and forcing actions. It's about letting your body do its own thing and giving your body the tools it needs to create these different compounds that are super valuable and super beneficial.
You will find Brain Force and other game-changing products at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.